If you talk about difference, then there's one subject that will always rear its head in North Yorkshire these days. It's fracking for shale gas, a hugely divisive issue. The company Third Energy hopes to start work at Kirby Misperton by the end of the year and even drill more fracking wells in Rydale in the years to come. We were talking about this on the phone in only last week, and look at the calls that provoked. Campaigners against fracking say they'll continue to fight the proposals, but those who support fracking say it is needed to safeguard energy supplies for the future. Well, we've brought together two people for a chat who have got totally different views on the rights and wrongs of fracking. Lorraine Allenson is pro fracking. Peter Allen is anti-fracking. We met together, as you will hear from the bird song tweeting in the background and the occasional ring of the bells of York Minster. We brought them together in the fine weather that we had only last week in the garden of a tea room in York, not a stone's throw from where I sit right now. Both started off by explaining, well, what they thought they might just get out of their chat. First, we heard from Peter.
I think ideally it would be nice if I could persuade Lorraine to accept some of my arguments and opposition to fracking arguments. I'm not optimistic, but that would be a really good outcome if I could do that. She knows where I stand on fracking, I know where she stands on fracking. I feel that I have a really strong case to talk about the issues that I would want to talk about today. Now, Lorraine will feel exactly the same, that she has a strong case. I just hope that mine is the stronger.
Well, you'll hear them debate and some of the issues surrounding fracking in just a moment or two's time. What did Lorraine think that she might get out of their conversation together?
I'm hoping that we could agree somewhat on climate change. We're wanting to decarbonise our electricity generation and vehicles and all things like that. And actually, I think you'd probably be quite surprised that we may actually agree on certain things and are completely opposed on other things.
Did they agree on certain things? I shall keep you in suspense for a moment or two. We'll hear the discussion, just 4 or 5 minutes of it, because it was a much longer discussion than that. We haven't got time to broadcast it all. But you can hear a sample of that discussion in a moment or two's time and, well, see how they came together and managed to, find some common ground or just reinforce the differences. We shall get back to the subject of crossing divides in a moment or two's time after the Manic Street Preachers. Manic Street Preachers and A Design for Life, 60 minutes past 11. So what would life be like if people could get across the divide and weren't so, diametrically opposed to one another in their opinions about, well, all sorts of things, their views, their outlook on life and specific issues. And as you heard a few minutes ago from Peter and Lorraine who supports fracking, Peter who is very much against it, they are different sides of the coin on the whole business of fracking for shale gas here in North Yorkshire. Well, you've heard what they hopes they might get out of sitting down together and having a conversation and trying to see across the divide. Let's hear a bit of that conversation. I should tell you, we chatted for, 20 minutes or something like that. I tried to keep out of things and just let them talk to one another. So this is Peter Allen, who is very much against fracking, Lorraine Allenson, who is in favour of it. We're chatting, as you will hear from the chiming of the bells and the tweeting of the birds, in the garden of a York tea room. We've heard what they think they might get out of the conversation before it took place. Starting with Lorraine, let us hear how that conversation actually went. And Lorraine starts by expressing one of her key concerns and issues when it comes to, her point of view of being pro-fracking.
I look at the fact of fuel poverty. As we decarbonise and we electrify everything, we've got to get it from somewhere. And electricity now is 3 times the price of gas. And people in this day and age are dying from fuel poverty in this country. And Age UK claims that in the winter, 1 person dies every 7 minutes in this country from fuel poverty. Now, I would like to see that we don't impoverish people even further and that they can actually afford to keep warm.
I would say that fuel poverty is not a supply issue. Fuel poverty is an issue with people who should be supporting those in fuel poverty. If we have a population dying, as you say, then this is the fault of the central government. The central government should be subsidising these people to not be in fuel poverty.
And then you don't want industry that actually makes money. The shale gas industry would put a lot of money into our economy. We all agree that the public services are going downhill and people are not getting the care and the support they should have. But to run a country, you need industry. And all you're doing is shifting that money abroad. We spend almost $5 billion a year buying gas in from abroad. That money could be invested in this country. It could create jobs. And those people pay taxes. The companies should pay taxes in this country. I'm very strong on that. You know, we don't want it pilfering off abroad. It has to be paid in this country, and then we can help deliver the public services that people need.
As long as they are continuing to explore for gas, as long as they're continuing to develop their industry, they can write their tax off against exploration and development costs. So actually, for the first unforeseeable future, they don't have to pay any tax at all.
No, but the people they employ the supply chain companies, they all will be making money and paying tax. So it isn't just off the industry. And eventually, hopefully, they will be making plenty of money and paying a lot of tax. Because you've got to remember, out with the North Sea oil and gas industry, they pay a lot higher rate than anybody else ever has done on their tax rate. It's a very high percentage, so that the government does get money. And can I just point something out? £1 billion is a lot of money. And when we spend $5 billion importing gas, if you put £1 every second into a jar, it takes 12 days to get £1 million. It takes 31 years to get $1 billion. So every year, if we were putting £1 in a jar, it's taking 155 years of doing that just to buy 1 year's income inflow of gas.
Two things. Firstly, research has shown that £1 spent on developing renewables actually creates more money, creates jobs, than £1 spent on petrochemicals.
Renewables are not reliable enough yet.
No. Let's stick with the economy of it. You're talking about people earning money and paying tax on it. Secondly, we have no idea how many jobs are going to be created by fracking. Ernst Young came up with a figure of 75,000. That was anticipating huge numbers of wells. We have no idea how many jobs they are going to create. We don't actually need these jobs in where we live. We don't need them.
You're joking. You're absolutely joking. We live in one of the poorest areas for earning the living wage in an area, and a lot of the jobs are seasonal, part-time, and they're on the basic minimum wage. Young people leave our area.
Unemployment in Rydale, which is where we both live, is 1.6%.
Yeah,
Nationally, it's 3.3%.
Yeah, but a lot of the kids move away because there isn't the jobs here. Why can't they have an opportunity? Why are you so against opportunity for people?
There will be equal opportunities. For instance, one of the biggest offshore wind farms is about to open off Hornsea. All the equipment for that, all the sails, all the turbines are being made in Hull. There are opportunities within the renewable industry to make huge amounts of money for the local population.
I have to say, I know somebody that is an apprentice and they're not keeping them on. And he's very upset about that. They took about 30 apprenticeships on, and they're not keeping people on. So a lot of them are going to have to find work elsewhere. So it isn't all, I think sometimes with these projects they say, we'll create these jobs and we'll, take on all these apprentices. But then, of course, when push comes to shove at the end of it, they're not actually keeping them on in employment.
Spirited, both of them. Eloquent, both of them. But still, it would appear to be a long way divided. I mean, the idea was that we crossed the divides. You just heard Pro Fracking, the voice of Lorraine Allinson, and Anti-Fracking, Peter Allen, having their chat together. At least you heard a much foreshortened part of a much, much longer chat. But and Peter almost put off his stride there by the bells of York Minster, tolling in the background, but he carried on to the end of his sentence, good man. So, has this exercise worked? Has it actually got either of our guests across the divide? Has our attempt to do that between pro and anti-fracking actually worked? Did Lorraine and Peter actually feel that their conversation had really achieved anything and brought them any closer together? First, Lorraine, had Peter managed to say anything that swayed her pro-fracking view?
Not particularly, no. I think we're from opposing sides, and I don't think we'll ever change our minds, really, will we?
No.
You know, I'm looking at it in a different angle completely to Peter, but that's fine. They've never said anything that I can really say, oh, yeah, that's a really good point, because I've heard a lot of scaremongering that's gone on over the years, and, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I believe in the truth, and that's what I, rely on in my campaign. I want it to be truthful. So that's sometimes why I've kicked back against the Anti-Frack campaign, because sometimes they've used quite a bit of misinformation.
Well, there were the thoughts and analysis of Lorraine Allinson as to whether or not she's seen anything in the arguments that Peter put to her. What about Peter himself? Did he think anything had changed? Had he come any closer to seeing Lorraine Allinson's point of view?
Oh, I've been moved. But I've not changed my mind. This is what worries me, to be honest with you, Jonathan. I sometimes think, well, your mind is closed. You're not really approaching this with an open mind. But I can't think of anything that would make me change my mind. I just think the whole issue of climate change, it is almost beyond us. It is certainly beyond me, but we're not helping it by developing these fuels. So, no, I can't see anything that's going to make me change my mind over the next however many years it is, however many years I've got left.
And we hope that is many. We thank both Lorraine and Peter for engaging in our little experiment to see whether we could get two people with very, very different points of view on a real hot topic here in North Yorkshire, across the divide. I'm not sure that we achieved it.